Good evening. Thank you all for joining our conversation tonight and our deep dive as we get into gratitude and presence. As we were looking at our year and looking at November month, we really couldn't decide between which we wanted to talk about, and we decided they go well together so much we just couldn't leave one word off of the other. So we decided to have both words of gratitude and presence as our anchor for this month of November. Obviously, Thanksgiving brings up thoughts about thankfulness and, looking at areas of our life that, we do feel gratitude for. So that's kind of a natural. And then we've really talked about presence the last few years around the holidays. We had our holiday presence retreat last weekend. And in doing that, because we want people to be able to be present through what for some people is one of the more stressful times of year. It's like time changes. We move into kind of back-to-back holiday season of, for some people, that's decorating, it's more family, it's more traveling. And so it can be quite chaotic time for people if you just let it become that way. So we try to begin, I guess, this season from a place of presence so that we can really be present with ourselves, be present for others that we're in connection with, and also thinking about training our minds to look for the good rather than to look for what's not going well or right. So that's, I think, where the gratitude part of this comes in. I've been doing gratitude meditations this month on Thursdays with that focus, because as we know with meditation, the more that we pay attention to that which we want to create more of, the more that can grow. And so we all have a tendency toward the negativity bias, and we try to create new pathways by thinking about the good instead of thinking about the bad. So I think that's kind of where that gratitude meditation for me comes in place, is how can I begin to think about the things working for me and do more of that and pay more attention to the goodness around, and less maybe obsession or focus about all the things that may not be going as well or right. So that's, for me, the importance of these and why I wanted to create some conversation around it. So with that, Sarita, happy for you to add anything or introduce yourself to, and what leads you to feel passionate about these topics.
Thanks, Erin. Yeah, I'm so grateful to be invited into this community and to share conversations and practices with both the participants and the other lifeline guides. And when I work with people, I as a naturopathic physician and also as an acupuncturist in that role as a clinician, I don't believe I've ever had a conversation where I haven't inquired about the personal practice that people have. And of course, gratitude takes many forms for people. But one of my short invitations for people to remember is that we can't be in worry and gratitude at the same time. And so it's such an easy one-for-one replacement. And I also help people remember, as soon as we become aware that we're complaining or we're catastrophizing, all the work has been done. That's all it takes. And then it's simply filling the gap with a new habit, as you're saying. So I think people can get frustrated with themselves and our long-term personality traits that we mostly created for survival, right? I mean, yay, we've survived something. It served us. But in the fall, as we know, it's the leaves are letting go of things. And it's such a great season to let go of that which no longer serves us. And most of the time at this point in our lives, at this point in our journeys, gratitude is always going to serve us more than complaining or catastrophizing. And it's simply a habit. It's a habit pattern.
I think that is what's so important, when I think I'm trying to think of the words I said, that which we focus on grows. It's like when you think about that habit, and that's where that retraining is so important. And I guess, as you said, that awareness, once the awareness is there, then there's the turn the other direction. I don't have to continue doing, if my typical is I come home at the end of the day, I tell the person that I'm with about all the things that didn't go well in my life today or whatnot, that you stop that and you instead are thinking, I'm having conversation about how things worked out well for me today, how things, the real story that comes up for me is when you came out to Woodhaven, and I took you up to see the property that we were reclaiming, and are still in the process of. I said, look what all there is to do. And you said, look at what all you have already done. You are habituated because you have so many practices that keep you there. It's just your natural. It's your natural right now. I mean, that's your natural.
It is. And under stress, all of us fall back into habits that aren't as healthy because that's what we know. Those are the deepest grooves. And so one simple thing we can do is when we do fall back in and we realize that awareness comes in, we can also then list the gratitude. We are able at that point, even if we've been complaining for 30 minutes, we can still stop the track. And we can say, it is difficult and it was a hard day and what on earth good came out of it, right? What are the possibilities? What could happen? One other thing I'll add that has really inspired me is, I don't know if you guys are aware of a group called Heart Math out of California. So I like their biometric, which they use heart rate variability, which is the coherence or the spacing between the heartbeats. And the parameter that they call heart rate variability, and you may see this as a parameter. And with Heart Math and with Vipassana or many other practices, in the scientific community now, we've formalized the feeling of gratitude, because the biometric experience in the body is the heartbeat becomes coherent between beats. And what we feel like when our heart is full open with gratitude, or we're just pretending that we're grateful, because the brain does not know the difference in the truth and a lie. So even when we complain, when we turn the story around, whether we believe it fully or not, we do start slipping into gratitude. And we measure that now in science, called heart rate variability. You can buy the rings, you can buy the ear probes, and we can practice with metrics now, with feedbacks, visual feedbacks that allow us to concrete what it feels like in our heart to be grateful. And so that somatic experience is super helpful, because a lot of us live in our brains. And sometimes if we can go, oh, there's an inkling, oh, that feeling in my heart, oh, that's what it is. Oh, there's a tiny bit of gratitude. Let me expand that. So science has really caught up with the wisdom of the ancients in being able to offer us something. Joe Dispenza does a great job with measuring heart rate variability. So, that's a science piece of it that I think is really helpful when we're thinking about somatizing and what the experience feels like. We all know it.
Yes, thank you for bringing that point about the body, because when you think about even yoga class this month, most of the yoga classes have been kind of focusing on heart openers and heart-centered work with the topic around gratitude and presence. And when you can become more in tune to what it feels like to feel that energy in your heart, and how to extend that, how to cultivate that, and how to extend that. I mean, yes, it can be measured, and the felt sense of that is the anchor that we can come back to, that can remind us, our body reminds us of where to go. So if we're training our mind towards it, and then we can have the felt sense in our body, that is, where we could really come back to it. And so, yes, their work is awesome. And, so much, I don't know if any of you are members of the Gaia network. I used to use it a lot, and I've watched so much of their stuff. I'm not a member anymore, but if you're looking for stuff like that, that's where I read so much of, or watched so much of Joe Dispenza's work, and Bruce Lipton, a lot of those that have all of that wonderful data and talks and books and stuff. But that GAI is a really nice network that pulls a lot of that together. But it's phenomenal to see the data behind it all. So it is, I think, so many practices that we can do to cultivate that. I know, like at our office last week, we had a gratitude tree. If you haven't come by yet, there's the gratitude leaves that you can come, write your gratitude. It's like, what can be the things that you have around the house that maybe remind you? Some people have the gratitude jars or gratitude journals, or different sayings, or different rocks, or different messages, maybe on necklace or bracelets that can help you stay aware of that practice. What's coming up for you?
The other thing that comes up for me is when I am having a hard time with my meditation practices, and I was trained with this with Vipassana, is when I would get off track, I was invited to just practice love in my heart. And so sometimes we get off our mind is going in meditation, or we've skipped a day or 3 days. And the easiest practice for me to come back to kind of start to reset the meditation that I'm in when I become aware, or if I have strayed from the practice, is simply sitting for 15 minutes in that feeling that we've learned as gratitude. And we don't even have to be counting the gratitudes. We learn what it feels like, and we can just sit and feel that. And that for me is the most helpful return during my meditation practices, when my mind has just gone wild, or when I have skipped my medicine.
Yeah. Yes, that makes me think of Tara Brach and her Radical Compassion book that I love so much. She's got the rain meditation she talks about in there, but she talks about the U-turn. And I just see that U-turn as, she'll talk about when you're getting offline, or so if you're going into that complaining mode or whatnot, how do you catch it, take a U-turn, and come back to the heart center? And she references a lot, like for couples, or if you're in a disagreement with somebody. And so I use this in counseling sessions a lot, that particularly in a couple session, if there's each complaining about the other and saying the same thing that they said the last time about the other, that's still the same, because we're still the same people. I often interrupt. I just did it yesterday and said, I want to take a pause. I want each of you to close your eyes. I want you to reflect on what I'm about to ask you. Tell me why you married this person. So it's like, let's go back to where we fell in love. Let's go back to the heart, because this is where we find the peace and the presence and the connection and what we're looking for. And our minds can take us so far away from that, in our daily lives. We're obsessing about things, disagreeing about things, all these things that are above the heart. And if we can just settle into the heart and find that connection, understand why, how we are relating to others, how we are relating to ourselves. I mean, I think that radical compassion I know next month we're talking deeper about self-compassion, but all of that comes back, I think, to carrying that in your heart so that you can sit with whatever it is that comes up. I mean, I think that's part of being present is you have to be able to sit with whatever it is. And if you're sitting with whatever it is with an open heart, you're going to make it through whatever your situation is a lot easier. I'm wondering if you, I believe you did this last time we were together. I had in mind a brief kind of gratitude practice meditation, but would you be open to walking us through just a moment of tuning in?
Sure. And what I want to offer is again a somatic experience because sometimes that's easier than just to settle our mind. And
Mhm.
so I was taught this practice by a physician in town. Her name's Rama Padriki.
Mhm.
She's a woman that had a private practice in town. Her husband was the administrator at the VA, and she's a fabulous gardener and an amazing cook. So she has taught me this practice that she learned from someone else, and I've shared it at some of the um, meditation classes that we've done. But it's the blooming of a lotus. So if we have our hands in prayer position, the invitation is to come into our heart. And I'm more of a free form person. So what I do is I start on my left thumb and I say one gratitude with each finger. And each finger is like the petal of a lotus. And so some people are very regimented and it will be the same finger for each, family, friend, spirit, place, all the things. You can make up whatever you want from this practice. But the idea is to take a few breaths and we'll just take a few breaths together. And then what we'll do in our own timing is allow each petal to open and bloom. And so then we have the expression of that beautiful lotus. And I'm just going to plug my computer in. So I'm going to invite everybody to get into a comfortable position. And what we want to have is just you can prop yourself, but just close your eyes and come into a position that you're comfortable, supported, or free form, and just allow yourself to settle into your seat and straighten your spine and just take a few breaths into the heart. And let's just take 8 final breaths. I find if I allow myself to expand my ribs, that allows my breath to go deep and to just seat that breath in the heart. Now at our heart, let's just put our hands in prayer position. And just feel the touch of one palm to the other. And in our own mind, in our own way, let's allow each petal, one by one, to open, and any gratitude that comes to mind, that comes to heart, that comes to body, let's all just allow ourselves to petal by petal, finger by finger, open our hearts into the gratitude of today. I am grateful for. Once your lotus has fully bloomed, you can just rest your hands. And that is an introduction to the gratitude blooming lotus. And one way to refine it is next time you practice, you might just want to take one breath in, bloom a leaf, one breath in. That will kind of slow you down and keep you at a good pace. So practice it. It's great to practice before you go to bed at night. It's a great thing to teach your kids, and it is great to have that somatic experience.
Yeah.
And every time we write an instrument, use our hands for something, they become accustomed to counting our gratitudes.
I love that, and how it is right there at your heart center. You're just like feeling that energy. It's like this cup of gratitude that's just resonating there.
It just
And yeah,
overflows.
yeah, yeah. Thank you for sharing that practice. I know I would just, yeah, invite any of you to, in researching topics. I mean, I think gratitude is one that there is probably more than most things. So I found a number of gratitude meditations. You know, the things which you go to listen to your music, Spotify, Apple Play, wherever you find yourself listening to music and podcasts, type in gratitude meditation. Type in Joe Dispenza on gratitude. I typed in Tara Brock on gratitude, listen to a nice talk she had. I mean, the purpose of these deep dives is, as to whet the palate, so to say, for what it would be like to bring more of this into my life and to experiment and explore and learn more about. So definitely encourage you to play around and listening to some different meditations that might help guide you. And certainly the one you just did, Sarita, is one that we could all incorporate easily into any time in our day. What that took, 3 minutes,
I mean, honestly,
5 minutes.
stoplights. I encourage my patients a lot to work acupressure points or do a gratitude when we're at a stoplight, because we can kind of be on automatic pilot. So it just takes a moment, right?
Yeah, yes.
Changes
And it brought for me I like to teach the finger tracing, counting with deep breaths as a method for calming the nervous system. And so as you were doing that, I was thinking about you could also work gratitude into that. You could take your breath and what are you grateful for? And with each breath. So that would, just be, I like it, and that it has that sensory
Yeah.
touch of the skin to skin contact. And so it can be extra soothing too. But those are two ways one might could do that would be simple to work in. So Yes, thanks so much for that. Hopefully that was helpful for you guys to have a little bit of a practice this evening too. Do any of you have any question or comment that you want to yield now in our discussion, or I'll kind of stop the recording and open that up. While you're thinking, if you have a question, one thing I did want to say in the recording, Melanie Beatty, I love her work. But as I was looking at one of her articles on gratitude, she had her quote of the gratitude unlocks the fullness of life. It turns what we have into enough and more. It turns denial into acceptance. It turns chaos into order, confusion to clarity. It can turn a meal into a feast and a house into a home. It can turn a stranger into a friend. I just loved her message there on one of her articles I was reading and wanted to share that. So if anyone has any question or comment, or you want to post in the chat. And I will say, if some of you, again, haven't had the opportunity to attend one of Dr. Cox's classes at our office, look for them on the LiveWell calendar. And you can also find her at Alberta Orchard Wellness, which is her practice, which I just got me my appointment scheduled because I've been dying to get started with acupuncture myself. So I can't wait to meet you for that next week. So yeah, if you're looking for an appointment with her, very easy to navigate her website and schedule a consultation that way. So I encourage you to check that out.
Our Lifeline monthly meditations are going to be the first Wednesday of the month, and we just started online. So if you guys can't get away at 5:30 and be in presence, we are expanding it to online, so that will allow some people that are on different packages to be able to tune in. So we hope that works for the community. So the first Wednesdays of every month.
Great. I didn't realize we were doing that. And yay, as much as I love getting together in person, and many of you do come to some in-person things, and we all know the value of the in-person connection, but you know, our lives have gotten so the ease at which, you know, being online and Zoom can offer more of us to be having kids at home and attend something, which a lot of people have to struggle with. So I appreciate you doing that. Hope that'll open up some opportunity for more people to experience you. So yeah, so we'll talk some more about gratitude and presence. And if anyone wants to stick around and ask any questions, I will stop this recording now.